and has done so much service, as long as we know we've done whatever we can do. Yes? Hanuman and that little squirrel. Hanuman was doing big things. The squirrel was doing little things. From a mundane competitive platform, Hanuman defeated the squirrel. But from Ram's position, he didn't. He sees our intent. The Lord sees our purpose, how we're trying to please him. The squirrel was doing 100% his capacity, as was Hanuman. In Ram's perspective, they both win. It's equal. He sees our love. He doesn't see the thing. He sees the love, the intention in which it is offered. So, they're fighting. If they were Vaishnavas, it would be a completely opposite fight. The nectar would be there, and someone would say, Prabhu, you take it first. He said, no. He would say, no, you take it first. You're more qualified than me. Then somebody else would say, no, you take it first. Well, then they both say, well, why doesn't he take it first? And so he said, no, actually she should take it first. No, they're all, this is Vaishnava society. Not me, I, me. But we're thinking about you. We're thinking about we. So here it is. They have all the secret of success and power in their hands, and they can't even assimilate it because they're so envious of each other. And the demigods, they can't do anything. They're just standing there watching the demons blaspheming each other and fighting each other and really hating each other over this nectar. Can you imagine? They hate each other. So the Lord knows exactly. He knows everyone's strength and everyone's weakness. Mayadhyakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam. Material nature is under the control of Krishna. Maya is his external energy. Inferior energy. And Maya knows exactly what is our strengths and what is our weaknesses, and she may nourish your strengths and nourish your strengths and nourish your strengths so that your ego gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, but then she knows exactly what your weakness is, and she knows how to crush you. Everyone, expert. But she's very beautiful. Everything about her is just perfect. Physically, emotionally, everything. Just her glances, her smiles, her movements totally captivated the egos of the demons. They looked at her, and she looked at them. She looked at each one of them. And each one of them was thinking, by her glance, she loves me. And because of that sense that she loves me, of all these powerful heroes, she sees my prowess. She sees how handsome I am. She sees my accomplishments. She's in love with me. And therefore, because they thought that she honored and had such deep affection for them, their egos were so totally stimulated by that glance that they had complete faith in her. Hare Krishna. And then all the demons, now they're united on the higher principle. They were fighting. They were united to get nectar, and then when they got it, they were fighting over who drinks it first. And now they're united on the higher principle that they all agreed that whatever Mohini says is right. And I know what she says because she loves me. She just went right to the very core of their false egos. And they didn't know it. But beyond their false egos, they were actually completely attracted to Krishna. Everyone ultimately is attracted to Krishna. Krishna tells in Gita, the only reason we're attracted to anybody or anything in the entire creation is because it's a spark of Krishna. And Krishna is a complete whole. Can we imagine how attractive he is? So the demons are actually, their hearts, their souls are stirred because they're being attracted by God, but because of their egoistic mentality, they don't realize it's God. They're just attracted. And each is thinking, that glance convinced them that she loved only them, that one person. And their egos were really, really out of control. She loves me. Every one of my brothers is mad after her, but she only loves me. Now, from the pure devotional perspective, when Krishna is sitting on the bank of Yamuna with the cowherd boys, the gopas, each gopa thinks Krishna's only looking at me. And they're in a circle around him. It's described like lotus flower, and Krishna is the whirl of the lotus flower, and all the gopas are petals in a circle around him. There's 4, and then there's 8, and 16, and 32, and 64, and then there's hundreds and thousands of gopas. They're all sitting around Krishna eating lunch. And Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita explains that every gopa is thinking Krishna's only looking at me. And when Krishna was dancing with gopis in the forest of Brajbhumi, on the bank of Yamuna, during his Ras Leela, each gopi is thinking Krishna's only dancing with me. Of all these other gopis, he's only with me. But it didn't create envy. It created gratitude. That's the spiritual world. But Mohini Murti, on a very, very different level, she played the same kind of trick. Each asura is thinking she loves only me. She's looking at me. Even if she looks at the others, they would see the glance of the others as, not like when she looks at me. But they're all thinking that way. And then they all unanimously agree, we are all brothers of Kashyapa Muni, we're all, on the same team as Asuras, but we're fighting, there's enmity, there's inimicalness between us so bad because we all want to drink this nectar first. There's a major crisis in our dynasty, and only you could solve it. You decide who drinks the nectar first. Because they were all absolutely convinced that she would choose them. And she just speaks the truth. She said, you don't even know who I am, where I'm coming from, what my family, I'm just wandering alone here. I could be a prostitute. You don't know anything. How could you put so much faith in me? And the amazing thing is they thought she was joking. This is how covered over they were. She was just telling them as it is exactly what was going to happen. But they couldn't hear. Just like so many instructions. We hear from Prabhupada so many things, beautiful things, but when we become enamored or infatuated by the ego and by Maya, we can't hear. Lust and envy and anger and pride and greed, when we become under the influence of these things, even if it's told directly to us through the books or through another devotee exactly what's going to happen if you don't do something about this, we can't hear because we're intoxicated. Krishna showed Duryodhana the Virat Rupa, but he couldn't see because he was so envious. He was so egoistic. He still thought he could defeat Krishna after seeing the Virat Rupa. That's how powerful Maya is. So she's telling him the straight out truth, and they're laughing. Oh. So nice. Your words are so full of sweetness. And then they all came, they're fighting over the nectar, they all together give the nectar to her and said, you decide, because we have complete faith in you only. So what she did next is fascinating. She just smiled and started talking to all the demons. Very sweet talk, very nice talk. In other words, I'm giving myself to you. I'm giving my association to you. And she was just talking and talking and talking, and in her talks, it was just charming, enchanting them. And then in her talk, she said, listen, you are big, self-controlled heroes. You're great yogis of the highest platform. So, you can tolerate a little inconvenience, but these demigods, they're nothing. They're just, they're all just little agitated guys. So they can't wait. I'm going to distribute a little bit of nectar to them, because they're so agitated and they're so, they can't control their senses. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to give the massive portion to you. Right? Again, she was playing with their false egos to defeat them. That's how Krishna, through Maya, defeats us, by playing with our false egos, by infatuating us. So they were, yes, those. We are yogis, we can wait. We are self-controlled. Go and give a little nectar to those neophytes. I'm putting my own words to it, but that's the spirit of what's happening here. So she goes over and she starts giving the nectar to the demigods, and the demons are just sitting there. Well, first, actually, it was a big thing that Mohini Murti is going to distribute the nectar. So just to make it completely auspicious, they all went and took their baths. And they put on flower garlands and ornaments, and they started doing yajnas to make everything very, ritualistically auspicious. And then they all sat. And Mohini Murti had the demigods sit a distance away. And she was right there associating with the demons and talking to them and glancing at them and laughing with them and smiling with them and capturing their minds. And then he said, you are all such heroes. You are all so self-controlled. You have attracted my heart so much by these qualities. But as a formality, we have to give something to the demigods. So let me just give to them first, because they can't wait. It's like, on a completely transcendental platform, when Prabhupada would give out cookies, he would always give it to the children first. Yes, because they can't wait. So Mohini Murti went over to the demigods. They were at a distant place, and the demons were watching very proudly. Very proudly. And then they saw she was giving large amounts to each demigod. She was giving huge amounts to each demigod, but the demons didn't want to displease her. So they didn't say anything. They didn't do anything. They just sat there and watched as all the nectar was... Only Rahu. Rahu was very much intelligent among the demons in this way, and he disguised himself as a devata and opened his mouth as Mohini Murti. They were just opening their mouths, and she was pouring it in each mouth. And Rahu poured. And then the sun, the Chandra and Surya, they recognized him. This is actually a Asura in disguise as a demigod. And Sudarshan Chakra came and cut his head off. But his head lasted forever because it drank the nectar. But she cut it off before it went below his neck. The rest of his body was dead. This is another thing. We can fool people around us, but we can never fool Krishna, because he's seeing from within. He sees our intentions, he sees our motives, he sees why. He doesn't see what we do, he sees why we do it. And it's that why that distinguishes a karmi from a Vaishnava. It's the what as well as the why. The what is incomplete without the why, and the why is incomplete without the what. We have to have the right intentions, but then we have to actually express that intentions through our actions and our words. So Rahu got his, all the demigods, until the very last drop of the pot was emptied into the mouths of the demigods. And the demons were still watching, wondering, what's she going to do for me? She loves me. She has to do something for me. And then the culmination of the whole story, where Mohini Murti changes her form into Vishnu. The ultimate arch enemy of the demons. And she gets on Garuda and flies away. Finished. That's the end of the story. So in this way, the demigods ultimately got what Krishna promised them, but not without a lot of challenges, a lot of which required patience, perseverance, and faith. Manmanabhava madbhakto madhyashimnam namaskuru mameve shashi satyam te pratijani priyoshime. Krishna promised each and every one of us, you will come to me without fail. I will give you ecstatic love of God. You will come to my abode to live eternally in my pastimes. Just always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me, which means just follow the path of bhakti. Srila Prabhupada gave a promise on behalf of Krishna. Just chant your 16 rounds attentively, guard against the 10 offenses, follow these 4 regulative principles, and live by the character and qualities of what he has given us in his books. And guaranteed in this life we can attain the perfection. It's the promise. So we accept the promise. But there will be challenges. And in these challenges, and apparent extreme reversals come in every devotee's life. Sometimes even it seems hopeless. It's so far away because our anarthas are so strong. But if we just persevere with patience and faith, Rupa Goswami explains two qualities of surrender are enthusiasm and patience. That's what we find in this story. Krishna is expecting enthusiasm to perform our duties. In our case, it's to follow the principles of bhakti. Enthusiasm to serve, enthusiasm to chant, enthusiasm to hear, enthusiasm to associate, enthusiasm to worship, but with patience. Because we may not feel anything. We may even feel the opposite. And opposite things may be happening to us. But we have enthusiasm. And we have patience. And we can only have that enthusiasm and patience if we have faith. Faith in the promise. Faith in the prospect. And that faith comes by hearing and chanting in the association of devotees. It's critical. It's foundational. And whatever twists and turns the spiritual path may take, in the end, it's 100% guaranteed. If we just remain faithful, the nectar awaits us. But without the challenges, we may not even appreciate it if it comes. Krishna has a purpose, a divine, brilliant, expert purpose, a perfect purpose for putting us through the challenges of life. And in the end, Shri Radha Gopinath removed the curtain of our own egos that stand between us and bestow their merciful, all-beautiful darshan, which is the supreme nectar of all nectar. And then we could truly taste the sweetness of their holy name. Echoes in the forest of Bombay. We will have one question because Braj Bihari looks really agitated to ask this question.
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for your association for class. You were mentioning about how Srimad Bhagavatam tries to break our faith in illusion so that we can also develop faith in the truth. So both has to go on together simultaneously. I wanted to ask this question that last few years, especially 4 or 5 years while preaching, one unique challenge comes up that people in Bombay especially are spreading lot of propaganda against the Vedic culture. A lot of pamphlets are being distributed, blaspheming deity worship and cow protection and things like that. So devotees, we get agitated. Although we know that Prabhupada said we should not identify ourselves as Hindu, Muslim, American, Indian, we are not the body. But we get agitated and we feel we want to do something. So while preaching, can we also present arguments which break people's faith in these theories which they are promoting? Can we do that? And how do we address this anger that we experience? How should we handle this emotion?
That is our sacred duty to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, our parampara and Srila Prabhupada. with the light of knowledge to dissipate the darkness of all this propaganda of ignorance. Yes, it is our duty to be very strong in counteracting these misleading speculations that are misdirecting innocent people. We have Shakshi Gopal Prabhu from here, from Kurukshetra. Kurukshetra is a place where Krishna told Arjuna, we have to fight for Krishna. Not for ourselves, but for Krishna. Bhagavad Gita is about Krishna telling Arjuna, fight to protect the world from ignorance and exploitation. So Arjuna, as a Kshatriya, was fighting according to his propensity. We are essentially a Brahminical culture. So we don't fight with weapons. Our weapon is the holy name. Our weapon is the truth. So in a humble but enthusiastic and bold way, we should challenge the illusory propaganda that is deluding the world. It's our universal principles. Yes?
Then actually, Maharaj, then we have to take sometimes names also, like for example, this lot of Islamic people are spreading propaganda in India, and also a lot of Christian missionaries. So these young boys, when they come and ask questions, and we answer them, so we are tempted to tell them about the flaws in that system also, although we know that Prabhupada said we should not criticize other religions, but the kind of propaganda is going on, it's very difficult to resist. So I was thinking, can we actually explain the truth, but at the same time maybe also tell them that this is very dangerous and this kind of what they are preaching is very dangerous. So that will actually shake their faith actually in their path. So can we do that also? Like in principle, is that okay?
It depends on the time, place, and circumstance. But in principle, we defend the truth. That is our duty. Factually, because the Vedic path of spirituality is so deep and so broad in the sense of understanding the essence, that it could embrace and accommodate the essence in other religions. Whereas people who are superficially, externally identifying with a particular religion, they can't tolerate another one because it just doesn't fit in their tiny little scenario of what religion is. But the Vedas are so deep and so broad. And that's why when the Zoroastrians were being persecuted in Iran, they came to India and they found shelter. When the Tibetan Buddhists were being persecuted in Tibet, they came to India and found shelter. When the Jews were being persecuted by the Romans 2,000 years ago, they found shelter in India and had been providing shelter ever since then. One of the oldest Jewish communities on the planet is India. And Christianity, at times when they were being persecuted, they found shelter in India. And factually, as far as I could see, Islam The Muslims in India are the freest Muslims in the entire world. They don't have oppressive leaders that are forcing them to follow according to their conceptions, but they have total freedom. Yes? Because of the openness and the depth of the Vedic culture, people of all religions are accepted and have freedom here, more than anywhere else on the planet Earth, finding shelter. Yes? And now these same people who have found shelter here because of the graciousness of the Vedic culture and Indian culture, now they're attacking it, trying to show their own sectarian, abusive, ignorant, little tiny scope of truth as the only way. And because we don't match them, because the Vedic culture doesn't match them, therefore we are something very deluded and dangerous. This is the reality of the situation. So no, we should be strong, not to oppose other religions, but to oppose ignorance and sectarianism, which breeds hatred, not love. Does that answer your question? Krishna Kshetra Prabhu, would you like to speak something on this subject? Please give him mic. Or any other subject you'd like to speak on.
Such wonderful class you have given, Maharaj. I'm speechless. But since you have given me the microphone,
would you like to sit up here so everyone could see? Please bring Krishna Kshetra Prabhu.
I'm okay.
Yeah, please escort him to his prescribed place.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Kshetra Prabhu is one of the very senior disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Not only a wonderfully exemplary, humble Vaishnava, but also PhD from Oxford University, great scholar even in the academic world.
Vishnu.
And yet remains the humble servant of the servant of the servant. Completely Trinadapi That's why he's always chanting the holy names.
I have a question.
No. If you can
to this. You were speaking about working together on the basis of a higher principle. So devotees might say, well, I have the higher principle, and this other person that I'm supposed to be working with doesn't get what is that higher principle. And so I need to get that person to understand the higher principle which I understand, and then we can work together. Otherwise, someone may say, if you say, no, you have to cooperate, you have to work together for the higher principle, for the Amrita, if I do it without that person understanding my higher principle, then I will be, in this cooperation, I will be actually compromising my principle. So, that's my question to you, Maharaj. is if a person sees in that way that there's a danger of compromising the higher principle, what should be the way of moving so that there can be cooperation? Does that make sense?
Because it makes sense to you, you should answer the question.
Hare Krishna. I'm genuinely asking, therefore, because I see this very often amongst devotees, a sense that to cooperate would be to compromise. And to compromise is somehow a problem. That if I'm compromising, I'm setting aside something which should not be set aside, something which is essential to Krishna consciousness. And I see this sort of inflexibility sometimes comes into our hearts that prevents us from seeing that actually the other party, if we are seeing in terms of parties, the other party we don't see, we become blinded to the principle which the other person also is adhering to. We become blinded to the Krishna consciousness in the other party, in the other person. It's been said that in developing a spiritual community, there are different stages. In the first stage, everyone is very all sweet and smiles with each other. Everyone likes each other. Everyone thinks we all have the same intentions, the same purposes. But over time, because we are different from each other, because we are individuals, there come noticeable differences which become more noticeable, and then they become even more noticeable, and then they become so noticeable that we can't avoid noticing them. And not only do we notice them, but we find them problematic. And so in the second stage of a spiritual community, bickering begins. You know this word, bickering? And then the bickering leads to argument, and argument leads to hardening of position. And this hardening of position, one becomes identified with that position, philosophical, theological, practical, whatever it might be. And then one loses touch with the actual higher principle. Now, many spiritual communities, they get to this stage 2, and then they break apart. They can't get beyond it. They can't get beyond the differences. But there's a possible stage 3, and that stage 3 is when the parties involved say to themselves, I don't know what is the solution to this difference amongst us. I am helpless. And at that point, when not just one, but both or 3 or 5 parties, whatever the number is, if everyone can say, we are helpless, at that point comes the surrender to Krishna. At that point comes the possibility for everyone in the group to begin to hear Krishna, to begin to hear Paramatman in the heart, saying what is to be done, what is not to be done, what is to be said, what is not to be said. That helplessness, that is actually our key to success when it comes to being confronted by differences. Because when there's that acceptance of helplessness, that's where Krishna can appear. And then can come the fourth stage of a spiritual community, and that's called real spiritual community. That's when everyone has gone through the poison, through the stage of poison, then real community can come about, and that community cannot be broken. And that community, we want to not only we want to expand that community. That is what preaching is about, isn't it? And we are confronted by persons who may be small-minded, as much as that we, even without words, see through that person's limited perspective and become genuine well-wishers of those individual persons. They're saying so many things, whatever they're saying. If we can think, we want this person as a person to advance spiritually, even within, or especially within, their own tradition. We should be clear that we have total respect for other religious traditions as such. People have their very conditioned ways of representing those traditions in ways which are counterproductive for themselves. So what we need to do is to wish that they can get a more comprehensive understanding of their own tradition. And when they do that, then they will open up. They will automatically be respectful of devotees. They will appreciate, oh, these people are also serving God in their way. But to do that, we have to see there's a spark of desire to serve God in these people. They may be getting it all wrong. They may be actually counterproductive in their purpose. But they have some essential good purpose, and we need to see that and then genuinely wish the best for them in that. I think that's what I would say to that.
Krishna Kshetra Prabhu ki. He has given us all an honorary degree in theology. But Krishna Kshetra Prabhu is speaking words of deep compassion and realization. Therefore, he is empowered by Srila Prabhupada and Sri Radha Gopinath to uplift us from our illusions. Thank you very much.
His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj ki!
Krishna Kshetra Prabhu ki! Srila Prabhupada ki! Thank you very much.